Hello everyone, I'm Shudi Du. Today, let's talk about AWS, a very hot and popular topic. In my presentation, I would like to stress these questions. What is AWS? What is its strengths? And what's the challenges for AWS? And do you think will AWS be a profitable or good business for Amazon? And what's the relationship between AWS and big data? Well, AWS is the product of Amazon. I believe everyone knows Amazon. Amazon is a very successful online retailer. We can buy almost everything from it. I normally buy clothes, textbook, food, cosmetics, something like it. And in order to support its massive retail business and its massive customers, Amazon has built a very sophisticated infrastructure, and this infrastructure becomes the basic for AWS. So, what is AWS? AWS refers to Amazon Web Services. As its name referred, AWS is meant to provide on-demand cloud computing platforms for individual, company, and governments. And from the picture, we can see the whole picture of the AWS, and at the bottom there are some very low-level infrastructures like compute, storage, network, and database. And from the bottom to the top, the infrastructure become more and more complex and more closely to service to tools. And with those infrastructures, customers can build their own application without building their own infrastructure, which is which will save a lot of money for them. And in the article, they mention about some main services like the Amazon S3 and Amazon ABS play the function of storage, and the Amazon EC2 referred to Elastic Compute Cloud. It is to provide residable computing capability in the cloud. And also the Amazon SimpleDB in the database block, it plays a role of like a database, and it also mentioned some services like Amazon SQL in the messaging blocks. So with those various products, what the advantages of AWS? Firstly, from the beginning of AWS, Amazon is aimed to provide reliable, easy to use, and elastic product. And with this product, AWS successfully attract a lot of customers and also receive high reputation from its customers. So through word-to-mouth marketing, it attracts more and more customers continuously. And early in its retailing business, Amazon already have rich experience in in technology, so they can apply this experience into AWS, and it has a very effective organizational structure in the developing department of AWS. And I want to stress a little more about the third strength, the first market. I think the first market is the absolute advantage for AWS. Retrospectively, Jeffrey Bezos is a very far-sighted and decisive leader. Even though the whole industry and around it people don't understand him, he still thought that the cloud computing is a very promising industry so he invested a lot of money in developing AWS, and he believed that AWS would be very profitable. And today we know that the cloud computing industry is indeed a very promising industry as Jeffrey Bezos expected. And as the first one that into the market, AWS already take a very large portion of the market, and it has a very stable, have a large volume of customer, has a stable customer base. For any newcomers that into the market, they have to figure out that how to differentiate their own from AWS in order to attract customers in AWS to buy their product instead of AWS. I suppose it's much more difficult than developing AWS as the first one into the market. And as the first one to the market, AWS has already built its own brand. When people talk about cloud computing, they will think of AWS as the first time instead of other brand. So then, what the AWS challenges? From the case, we know that at the early years, Amazon invests a lot of money in development of AWS, so it's not profitable as expected. So the people inside in Amazon and from the capital market keep a skeptical attitude towards AWS. But in recent years, I have to say AWS already become very profitable, and it brings a lot of money to Amazon. I will talk about later. Well, up to now, AWS has various competitors, like the article mentioned. Microsoft provide the similar services named Azure, and the Google has App Agent. Even though these two services is not as perfect as AWS, but they have the potential to catch up with AWS and even surpass AWS in the future, because we know Microsoft and Google has a very strong capability in technology development. And after reading some other articles online, I found that there are also other competitors occurred in recent years besides of those high-tech companies like the IT companies Dell and IT companies like Dell, Fujitsu, and the mobile company AT&T. They also start to enter into the cloud computing industry. And another challenge for AWS is that at the beginning, its target customer only is developers It means that only the developers with certain skills in computer can take use of their services. And I think most of its customers are high-tech companies like Facebook, Netflix, like Airbnb. I think in the future, AWS can expand these services into other industries like finance, education, and even agriculture. So after getting some general information about AWS, we will propose a problem. Will AWS be a promising business for Amazon? Well, my answer is yes, because in my opinions, up to now, AWS already has more than 70 services, and all of those services has helped AWS to build a complete ecosystems. It can provide a very complete service for its customers, and um, for a customer, if it want to build its own application, it is very reasonable for them to choose AWS, because AWS can provide every services that you want. Just like when we go to shopping, we would like to go to the supermarket instead of a boutique store, because we can get everything that we need in the supermarket most of the time. We do not have to go to other stores. It is much convenience and time saving. And the second reason for the positive answer is a virtuous circle. I think from the case I can find the virtuous circle is like at the beginning, AWS provides services with high elasticity. It can meet the requirement of different customers, so it attracts a large volume of customers. So with these many businesses, AWS can get profit. But Amazon, to surprise, it invests the majority of its profits back into the research and development of AWS in order to optimize existing product services and introduce new services to enrich AWS portfolio. So with a lot of product services that they can choose, and with the better services, the customers would like to keep the long relationship with AWS. And with the higher reputation and the famous brand, more and more customers will come to AWS. So in 2015, AWS only account for 8% of total sales income in Amazon, among different divisions in Amazon's, but it already account for 52% of net profit. So we can see that up to now, AWS already become the most profitable product service in Amazon. Well, from the diagram of IaaS market share in first half of 2015, we can find that Amazon is the company that account for the largest portion of market share individually, and it takes up about 27.2% of market share, almost doubles the Microsoft. So we can see after the 10 years of development, AWS is already become the leader of this field, and it is hard for other competitors to surpassed it. And according to the consulting company Gartner, AWS is constantly expanding its service offering and reducing its prices. And AWS capability of cloud computing equals to the sum of other companies behind it. So we have to admit that AWS is the market leader with and also is a very thoughtful and innovative leader. Lastly, go back to our course, big data. So what's the relationship of big data and AWS, or what is the difference? What is the relationship of big data and cloud computing? Well, I think big data require large on-demand compute power and distributed storage. Exactly, cloud computing can provide the elastic on-demand computing that meet the requirement of big data. Just like we can go back to the AWS infrastructure, and we can notice that it has a services named Elastic MapReduce. The product is to process the big data on its cloud computing platform. And when we mentioned about big data and AWS, we can't forget business intelligence. I think it is a cloud computing that provide a big enough platform for big data, and it is business intelligence that analyze big data and creates the value of big data. So for big data, cloud computing, and the business intelligence, these three enhance each other and they can live each other.